And it was very difficult growing up with ADHD. You know, my dad fought for me like every single freaking day, man. I was bullied constantly, and I'll be honest, I handled bullies very well. I knocked him out.
Yeah.
Clean, cold, knocked him out. Didn't get bullied again. My brother, the sacrifice that my brother made for me is, he always says to people, like, my career was 90% negative, 10% positive, but people only see the positive, and they don't see all the crap that you go through. And my brother sacrificed everything for me. He knew I was that guy. He knew I was the more talented one. And he beat the crap out of me. He pushed me. He told everybody I was the best. He never made me feel less than him. He always made me feel more. He always pushed me, like, in every aspect. You're not drinking, you're not partying, you're not doing this. And by creating that mindset within me, I created a friend group in which knew my sacrifices and knew everything. And without them, I would not be who I am today. We do all the chores because we know who it was. We got our butt beat when we were younger. Yeah. We couldn't do anything till the chores were done. This man would come back and vacuum and like, not good enough.
Yeah.
Most kids would be like, oh, no, it was about standards. And he set these standards. Every game, every practice, it was never good enough. I could always be better. It was always my fault if we lost, because it wasn't like it was my fault, but it was my job to make everybody around me better. I literally have a best man and I have a best dad. Like, he is.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Mile Connect podcast. Today we have Coach Joey Spivack of Tactekks Soccer. I'm so excited to have him on just because we have worked closely with some of our patients, our players, to help them get back on the field, especially with soccer, playing at high level, especially after season-ending injury, just like an ACL. So take what you will from this episode, just because there's a lot of gem, and I want you guys to really take notes and listen from his career, his journey, and he's going to share about his passion with soccer. So Joey, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, man. I'm so excited to be here. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were able to get it in before my wedding. So when you said 14th, I was like, oh, let's try 31st. Definitely can't do that in the morning.
Well, congratulations, man. That's
Thank you.
That's the biggest thing. Huge honor to be in a committed relationship and to be a husband. It's one of my biggest identity, as I would say. So let's get into your stories a little bit, bro. Like, I know you have crazy path, especially playing Europe for, close to 14 years, and now coming back to the States, sharing your passion with the younger generation. So how do you end up playing soccer in the first place?
So funny story. So my brother and I, my family grew up in Mount Olive, New Jersey. And now there's the middle school there. But previous to that, there used to be these fields called Centennial Soccer Fields. And it was, still remember it, it was two sides of fields split by this like line of like trees. And my dad grew up American football, baseball, and basketball. Very good at both. Was supposed to go to college for football. His sister, All-American high school in softball. His other sister, All-American in field hockey. So just stud athletes. Unfortunately, my dad's dad passed away 2 weeks after my dad's final game in high school. Yeah, very, very emotional. Like, actually, this is like last letter to him came up, and I'm actually considering applying that to my wedding. It's just amazing. It epitomizes like the way I was raised. So no soccer background at all. And then my brother, like, passing the field, he's 3 years older than me, and passing this field because we grew up literally right down the street. I used to walk to the middle school for when I went there. And my brothers wanted to stop and play, and they stayed there for hours and just watching. So Josh gets into it. And so he's 3 years older. So I'm 3, and he's playing rec or whatever it is at the time before it turns into travel soccer. And I had my little sambas on, like the old school sambas on. And we had, my brother played with this Jamaican family's kid named Andrew Clifton, who ended up playing for the U17 Jamaican national team. And all of a sudden, like, I just get a ball and I just start doing stuff with it. And like, the Jamaicans, they go, hey, man, like, you see Joey over there, like, just dribbling. And my dad obviously, like, has no clue. And and then at 5 years old, they put me into rec. And, I didn't have like this like huge growth spurt and then stopped at like 5'6", 5'7", right? I always gradually grew, but I was very, very small. So they put me into rec, and all of a sudden, like, I'm dribbling through everybody. I'm scoring 10 goals a game. They're putting me in goal. I'm taking the ball out of goal and I'm dribbling, and like, to the point where these parents are getting pissed off and saying like all this stuff. And my dad's like, it's not like I'm towering, you know, nowadays where they have these kids just roughing kids up, and I can get that, a size difference. And so they kicked me out of rec.
Wow.
They kicked me out of rec, and travel soccer didn't start till U9. So I'm 5. So there was nowhere for me to go. And this is when soccer might have been a little too simple, but the simple in terms of now was way better, right? So there was travel soccer, and then you try to go to club, and like that was it. So we knew the U9 coach, and my dad goes, and they obviously knew my brother, and they go, Joey got kicked out of rec, like, can he play? And they're like, oh, like, just thinking, like, I was small. Again, I'm small for my age. I'm going to, these kids are 8 years old. So going to training, boom, do my thing, blah, 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 getting knocked off the ball. But I used to get my butt kicked by my brother all the time, and his friends, and play with them all the time. So I was used to it.
Already playing up.
Yeah, used to it all the time, which I benefited from massively in my career, like, you know, when I got older. And so game 1, and then they're not putting me in the game, and my dad's like, oh, he's softened up now, but it was a very, very intimidating man when he was younger, and he's like, put him in the game. Like, knew the coach, like, put him in the game, because they were nervous, and I get that, right? Like, especially back in the day, you're playing on, you remember, like, I can remember in Thailand, it's probably sometimes similar, like these fields where it was little specks of grass and the rest was dirt and terrible, right? These kids play on turf nowadays is so nice. And so they put me in as blah, 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 bang, they hammer me, boom, pop back up again. And all of a sudden, like, first game, 3 goals.
Wow.
So it takes off from there, and my dad ends up coaching me in travel, and I just start like destroying everybody. I'm playing 2-3 years up, and it's just like your name's growing. You're in the paper constantly, in the daily record for like all these goals. And it's funny, like, talking about that now, everything's on Instagram. And then I went from there to a team called SSC Sharks, which at that time, when rankings were like real and there wasn't a lot of clubs, we were like top 5 in the country constantly, still playing 2 years up. And that's where I really like I love the game, but then you start to get to like 8-9 years old, and you start to realize, like, but dude, like, I'm going to all these tournaments all over the country now, and like, I'm still like by far the best. And it was a balance of knowing that, but obviously my dad, which I'll get into later, just like, when you want to talk about somebody keeping you humble and keeping you in check, like, yeah, like big time, my whole entire life. And went from there, and then went to PDA, which is still like a club now, for a year. Didn't work out there for multiple reasons, and I'll be honest about it, like a lot of daddy coaching. And I went from being arguably the best center mid in the country at the time to then me going out to the wing because daddy's son played center mid and he was terrible.
Politics.
Yeah, no, which it happens all the time. Happened with me on national team and everything like that. And then Metro Stars started their youth program before Red Bulls, and obviously heard about me, and I get invited in. Boom, I'm there. So I still have Metro Stars like stuffs. Actually, one of the kids that I train has my old Metro Stars 10 training jersey. It's sick. So many grows out of. I'm actually gonna get it back for my kid in the future. But yeah, I have that, and then we changed into Red Bulls. I was with Red Bulls the rest of my career. So at the time, I don't know if I still am, but I was the longest tenured player there. I was there 6 years. Okay. So yeah, and then I went from there, and then I had a lot of offers. Georgetown, Loyola, Maryland, Temple, Holy Cross, BC, and then St. John's, a few others. And I landed on St. John's because when I went there, obviously in Queens and stuff like that, it's not in the best area. I knew, like, yeah, I'm going to be in class around here. I'm not going to hang out and go around, because to be honest with you, I didn't like school. Growing up with ADHD in a time where ADHD was like, oh, is it like a thing? And there was nothing for me. And, that was a very difficult childhood away from my family, like very, very, very difficult. And that's why I'm blessed to have like the best family in the world. And so I knew like I had to go to St. John's because of the help that they had educationally and just the environment. I was like, all right, I'm going to be in class. I'm not going to be out partying. I don't drink alcohol, never drank alcohol. That was like a big thing. Still don't. Like, like marijuana, stuff like that. Never. Like it just never. Like my brother told me that from a young age. Like if this is what you want to do, you can't do any of that. So Landon St. John's, loved Dr. Dave Mazer, Coach Mazer. Love how strict he was. And in high school, like I got a scholarship to go to St. Benedict's. Ended up not working out. Still have a good relationship with Father Ed, who actually most likely is coming to my wedding. Hopefully to bless our wedding, because he can't do it outside the church, the actual ceremony part. It was too strict for me there. And I'm going to go to Morris Catholic. And then actually we moved from Mount Olive to Panther Valley. So I ended up finishing at Hackettstown, which loved it. So loved the way Dave Mazer was. And then all of a sudden, playing with Red Bulls, we go to Spain for Club World Championships, playing the likes of Sevilla, Juventus. For example, we play in Juventus and Ciro Immobile, who was the Italian national team striker who played for Lazio. In his youth, he played for Juventus. He was a striker we played against. So all these players, Sebastian Giovinco, played in the MLS, played for Juventus, Parma, get scouted. And then it's like, hey, you can go to Belgium, do this, and this, like different route, blah, 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 blah. So I ended up saying no to St. John's like on signing day.
Wow.
So Mazer wasn't happy at the time. Totally get it. But then years later, when your career takes off and you start doing little things, and I only had little breaks. Everybody doesn't get that too. I think in 12 years that I was away, I would think I was home for a total of 6 months.
Wow.
So you have to be too, because as like when you're so fit, it's so much easier to get unfit rather than somebody that's not the fittest. If they take the same amount of time off, it's not the same difference. So that's why they're like, oh, they only get 2.5 weeks off. Yeah, because you can't go longer than that. No. So everything starts to become harder to get back into game fitness. So yeah, and then my journey started, and then actually I saw Mazer while my brother he used to be the head coach at Centenary. At the time he was assistant, and we're scouting at the PDA tournament, and I saw him, and he had a younger son at the time, and he goes, see, like you don't have to have like the same journey as everybody else, and he was like talking about me, and I was like kind of taken aback by it. I turned this guy down, but then from then on in, just went Belgium, then England, which I loved, and I wish I could have stayed. Had visa issues at the problem. It took forever to get my Italian passport. Which I respect and I get, but it took forever. And then I went to Finland and then Iceland, and then came back, and it's been a journey, man, but it's been awesome. It's flown by.
Man, oh my God, so much to unpack, dude. I'm so fascinated by your origin story. So I think let's unpack the first thing. Seemed like your dad and your older brother has so much influence on you in who you are as a person, as an athlete. Talk about that regimen, strictness in that household, because I grew up very strict as well, and I appreciate that so much now as I get older, just because I like to have like a set routine. I like to know exactly what I'm doing. I like to know when I'm showing up, and I like to have a purpose in everything that I do. How did that play a role?
I would say sometimes it makes me emotional, like because I think about like the wedding and stuff like that. I literally have a best man and I have a best dad. Like he is. It makes me like a little emotional thing about it. So sorry about that. But like he's my hero, man. Like he's everything to me. And it was very difficult growing up with ADHD, people not understanding the balance. And then like, dude, like there's a point where my parents didn't want me. I ended up going on Concerta, which I hated. And I'm so glad. And now I take actually CBD and it has changed my life. It has changed my life dramatically. And I couldn't recommend it to the kids that I train with ADHD more than not going down the pharmaceutical route. But we tried vitamins, like we tried everything, like, and just nothing was working. But basically I was a kinesthetic learner, and if I watched a freaking movie, man, I can remember that movie. That's probably why I like them so much. Like this, like an example of like, there was this book, Cyrano de Bergerac, and it was like a terrible, like old English book, right? And they want you to learn Old English. You can't understand a word these books say. And I watched this black and white movie, and it was a terrible movie. It was terrible. But because it was visual, I remembered everything. I aced that test. Yeah. And I was very frustrated in school because it was always, and it still is, a little bit less reading comprehension. So the reason why I talk about that is like, my dad fought for me like every single freaking day, man. I was bullied constantly. And I'll be honest, I handled bullies very well. I knocked them out. Yeah. Clean, cold, knocked him out. Didn't get bullied again. So when I see these kids getting bullied, like, and they'll be like, oh, don't fight this and that. I'm like, I mean, you know what I tell all these kids? Like, and I tell all these parents, I'm dealing with one right now. And they're like, Joey, you know, we want him to train with you and gain confidence and stuff like that. And I go into BJJ. So I go into it. I said, because in the end of the day, they won't teach you to fight, but you'll know how to handle yourself. And you get to be able to grapple somebody, get them to the ground, and you get them in a little bit of a choke, man. They'll stop bullying you real quick. And there's no other way, man. Everybody wants to talk it out. There's no other way. And my dad would get into that school and be like, Joey, what happened? I'd be like, listen, I asked this kid to stop making fun of me. Like, he wouldn't stop. He wouldn't stop. Gets to a point where like, you're going to stop, you know, and always back me up. Always in that school. Nope. He's not getting suspended. Nope. He's not. Sometimes the cops have to come be like, no, he's not. Like, you're not going to do this. So that man always had my back. On the soccer field, he always had my back. And my brother, the sacrifice that my brother made for me is, I can't even really talk. It's very hard to talk about it because it's like, he's so introverted that he doesn't talk about it. But he always says to people, like, my career was 90% negative, 10% positive, but people only see the positive, right? And they don't see all the crap that you go through, you know. And I saw you talk about that kind of the other day in the way you grew up. And my brother sacrificed everything for me. He knew I was that guy. He knew I was the more talented one. And he beat the crap out of me. He pushed me. He told everybody I was the best. Like, there was, like, I try to tell people this all the time, and I get very frustrated with some of my players who I train their younger brother and they're the older brother, of how much they can affect their younger brother. He never made me feel less than him. He always made me feel more. He always pushed me, like, in every aspect. You're not drinking, you're not partying, you're not doing this. And by creating that mindset within me, I created a friend group in which knew my sacrifices and knew everything. And without them, like, it's very, everybody says that, right? And I know in their own story it could be true, and probably in yours is, but without them, I would not be who I am today. Like, not even in the slightest. I don't know where I would be. And I kind of talk about that in terms of my dad losing his dad at 17. That's why he's my hero. You know, he was supposed to go to college for football. Mother at times like, no, you have to take care of the family, so your job. Now, doesn't talk to his two sisters, not good people, not even come to my wedding, and I'll be very open and honest with that, and never would be invited to my wedding. Mother, like, kind of like remarried and like this and that. And like, he sacrificed everything for them, gets denied by them, ends up meeting my mother, finds a family within them and my nan and my poppy and my mom. And never complains. Never complained. That guy went to, I love my mother. My mother, I adore my mother. She's had my back my whole life. But it's like, there's a different dynamic with my dad and I. And the reason is my mom worked a little bit of later hours. Parents worked their whole lives. Didn't grow up with much. Grew up in townhomes my whole life. So, like, you know, even go to St. Benedict's and, like, you know, unfortunately they're white, so they think you're white, so they think you're rich. And I had a kid come over and he goes, "Oh, you're not rich." I get it. I go, "Yeah, listen, I'm living better than probably you are, but I don't." And to the point where, like, they see, like, their cousin who grew up in the apartments next to me, like, "Yeah, dude, it's like it's not like that." So, you know, the sacrifice that he made is just, like, it's unfathomable to explain it. And he's my hero because never once did this man complain. Got up in the morning, went to work, came back at 3:30, cooked me a little food, went to training, back at 11 p.m., especially in the Red Bulls days when you're doing this 5 days out of the week. Never complained once. Like, cleaned the whole house. This is how he is. Like, he's a Virgo. So I guess Virgos are very, like, organized and clean. So he has to shout out my nieces too. So when she does stuff, she's like, "Oh, Virgo." But, like, would clean everything to the point where do these chores, my brother and I. We do all the chores because we know who he was. We got our butt beat when we were younger, but very balanced, right? A very balanced man. And he would come home and vacuum the same stuff what we did. And we'd be like, "But Dad, like, we would move furniture, Natty." We would, like, move the furniture. We weren't, like, jipping on this stuff because we knew the standards. We couldn't do anything until the chores were done. This man would come back and vacuum and like, not good enough. Most kids would be like, "Oh, no." It was about standards. And he set these standards. And he was all over me. Every game, every practice, it was never good enough. I could always be better. It was always my fault if we lost, because it wasn't like it was my fault, but it was my job to make everybody around me better. And some people be like, "Oh, it's like very harsh and stuff like that." But he didn't do that to Josh. So this is where my father, I think he's the best dad I've ever seen in my life. He knew he could push me. He knew he could do things to me that he couldn't do to Josh. And he knew that Josh needed to find his own path and his own journey. To the point of where Josh's was overweight. My dad's side of the family is a heavier side of the family. And that's why I told you he got an intermittent fasting, changed his life. And so he grew up like baby fat. He was like skinny. Funny, he was like skinny. Then he got like this baby fat and he couldn't lose it. But he had a lot of skills and technique, but he couldn't lose it. So he didn't push my brother. Then all of a sudden, like I'm running for Red Bulls, going out, running the 2 miles, doing all this stuff, like staying fit. My brother's like, hey, can I come with you? I was like, sure. I was like, I'll keep a steady pace and you come. And he changed his life. He went from 180 to 140. You can imagine like as a younger kid, like that's drastic to the point where everybody knew us. And we would walk by us and be like, hey, Tom, hey, Stephanie, hey, Joey, and what? Josh? Yeah. I mean, he looked like malnourished. He had like a guinea tea on his he has a big head. Generally, my dad's have a big head and he looked malnourished. And my brother changed his life and went from, barely graduating high school, like grades wise, just got a little bit like riffraff at the end, to going to CCM, to getting recruited to go to Centenary, to graduating summa cum laude, to getting his master's free, graduating summa cum laude with his master's, to then doing what he's doing now. And it's all because of our father and that discipline and that understanding, that balance. And I try my best to bring that into my coaching, but I can't it's so, we could be here for hours talking about how much they affected my life.
Oh my God. I love this theme so much just because I talked to my buddy who just recently became a new dad, and, we were discussing the life of, the path we're going now, that we can only see like, let's say 100 years ahead, right? Because 100 years, we can care about that because that's like our grandkids will be there. 1,000 years, we don't know what's going to happen, right? Meteor could hit and all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, like if we're planning for 100 years ahead, we need to plant the seed of being a strong influence by picking up the mantle, bang the cross. So that way, the younger generation, whether it's, our kids, our grandkids, even the athlete we get to coach and work with, they get to stand on the shoulders of our mistake, and therefore they have higher standard than what we used to have, right? And what I love about this, like your dad set a really high standard for you and your brother. Your brother makes sacrifice for you. And then it's kind of like a full circle moment where you now inspire him in a way.
It's almost where I wonder if I was inspiring him the whole time.
Yeah.
And
it gotta be a little bit of both, dude.
Like, what it is too, and I think like, and I think back to it, and like I've talked to him about this, and that's why like I cried during like my best man speech and everything, is because like I don't think he knows how much he inspired me. Like the path that he set for me was just so, and I'm not good with big words, but I guess like instrumental in who I am, and he's still like, he's still every day, like he's my best friend. Like I don't need friends. Like Franco's in my wedding party. This guy Claudio Llanes, who's Zidane, his son's a kid who just signed for NYCFC. He's in my wedding party. My future brother-in-law and my brother. Yeah. And people be like, why aren't like these like 33-year-olds? And I go, because if you're not on that same mentality as me when it comes to sacrifice and honesty, you're not my friend. And I don't need that. I've never needed that. And I'm not a loner. I just don't need that. Yeah. And I remember meeting my fiance, and she always goes, oh, you're always so happy. And I go, it's because the crap I've been through, man. Like, but within that crap that I've been through, it's the support group that I have through that. And that's why like I feel bad for kids who don't have that. But then I go from the perspective of my dad of like, hey, you gotta figure it out. And I'll get into that line, figure it out. My dad, when his dad passed, he had to figure it out. You don't have anything, especially, back in that day he died. I guess my dad was 17, born in 57, so bad math, but that's what, 74, right? 74, 75. So they ain't the same times back then. Yeah. So he had to figure it out, man. He had to figure life out. And just like that, had a major heart attack. Thick guy. That's what like I resemble the most, like body-wise and stuff like that. So I'm leaving for Belgium, and I'm 17 years old, just about to turn 18. And this is when internet in Europe still like a 07 here. So internet in Europe still dodgy. You still have the cameras on top of the computer. Yep. And I'm like, Dad, like, it's the first time I'm not going to have you. It wasn't like a crutch, but it's like that guidance. I still call this guy every day asking him, hey, Dad, I have this problem in the house. How do I fix it? Like, his nickname's Tam. We call him Tom. His nickname's Tam because he's from the Bronx, and Tom, and it just got into Tam, and everybody calls him Tam now. Knows him that. And I just like, what am I gonna do? I don't have you. Like, you know, it's hard, and you know, it's a flight away. It's not like, you know, a kid's like 2 hours away on a flight in the United States. And he goes, dude, like, figure it out. And I go, what do you mean figure it out? He goes, I like trained you in a way, right? I think he used a different word, but he's like, I trained you to be like this, to be able to do things on your own. He goes, you need to figure it out. He goes, my dad died. I had to figure it out. He goes, you have me. He goes, don't be soft. Figure it out. I'm always here. And the end of the day, it might be a lot of money, but I'm a flight away. And that's the best thing. And man, I saw so many kids crumble over there because they didn't have a dad like that and a brother like that, you know? So I try to put it, to your point, I try to put it so much into my players. And when I coach my players, the first thing, especially my young ones, I said to them, I go, it's not about soccer. This is about life. I said, if you can deal with me in the way I coach and the way I am, and you can deal with this environment, and you can become relentless, life gets a lot easier. Because 6 or 7% go to college to play in soccer terms. Less than 1% become professionals. So what are we talking about here? You know what I mean? If you have, 10 players, like one of them's going, right?
Less than one.
Yeah, right. Less than one's going to college. You know, hopefully you're blessed enough to be a higher odds in terms of like your group of players. It's about life, and what you learn from this sport is life. And
yeah, no, I love this because we say this all the time, because when it comes to season-ending injury like ACL, anything that put you out for a whole year, is the first adversity that any younger athlete have to face, and it's the first true moment where they realize that their parents cannot save them from this.
Can't save you from anything, Natty, and that even on the field, I go over that all the time. So
because there's a moment in any woman's life where they realize that, hey, it's on me. And I think the sooner you can learn to take ownership of your situation, the sooner you can have that freedom of figuring out. Because once you start owning, like, hey, this is actually my problem, then you say, okay, well, what can I do about it? If you just go ahead, well, it's not my fault. I think that's one of the biggest red flags when I see, right? Like, it's not my fault, it's so-and-so, right? And one thing I want to get into it with you is that you're a player, you're a student of the game. With the social media, with the new players/celebrities coming up, you get to see that a lot more, where there's certain player who makes other people better. And there's certain players say, nope, it's the manager's fault. Nope, it's this and that. And
big blame game.
Exactly. So how do we combat that as far as like having real conversation?
I guess I was talking about this with my brother the other day, and again with my fiance, because she always she doesn't fully understand. I mean, we haven't even been together for 2 years. Like in 8 months we got engaged. Like I knew like right away. And I said, it comes from the household. And it's like, oh, it's that. Yeah, man, it's that simple. It's that simple. Every kid that I train, they have to want to train. If mommy and daddy want you to get it better, I don't care. I don't do it. I'll show you every single first conversation I have with parents. Does your kid want to get better? For instance, I train, and it's just because it's relatable. It's not like anything, because it's nothing to do with flex. I really don't care about any stuff. I train Harrison Hackett. He's Nathaniel Hackett's son. Nathaniel Hackett's the offensive coordinator for the Jets. Okay. This guy's like uncles like Aaron Rodgers, right? And the first thing I said to him was, he asked me during one of these things, like, hey, coach, do you train? Harrison reached out to me. Not Nathaniel Hackett, Harrison. And I told Mr. Hackett that I would like to talk to him the first session, just explain to him what I do. And I said, the first thing I said to him, I said, I love that your kid reached out to me. It shows so much like about who he is. But that comes from the fact that like most likely Nathaniel Hackett goes to Harrison like, dude, like I can't do this for you. It's probably because of the environment that he knows that, to your point, it's intrinsic motivation. Like you have to want to do it. Harrison reaches out for me to everything. We do everything. I only get payment from his parents. So, and I started training him just like 3 months ago. So it's not like I've been training him for a while, but it's like that. That's like what everything's about. If mommy and daddy want to do it for you, it doesn't matter what it is in life, you're never going to be good at it. And what I mean by that is you can get motivated from your parents, but that motivation doesn't last. If you motivate yourself, it lasts forever. And I'll explain it even like this. So after soccer, like I started eating and doing whatever the heck I wanted to do. Like even like started like drinking like a little bit like a wine, and I could never drink. I was like, oh, I'm just like chilling. I went like now I'm like 138, 140, and like back fit again. I was like 170, 175.
Wow.
Big. That's big. I got some photos of me. It was big. So then I got into intermittent fasting with my dad and did all this stuff. And my fiance's super fit. Like, pop, pop, pop. Like she is fit. So when we met, she used to come home. She works at nights, and she'd come home at like 7 o'clock in the morning from working. She used to go work out. So I was like sitting on the couch, like I didn't obviously eat breakfast in the morning. I'm fasting, whatever. And then this one day, like I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go work out with her. And I tell her all day, she's my inspiration. She is my motivation to just keep pushing in life. But she goes like, no, you do it. And she's so right, because as much as like I saw her doing it, and she does motivate me, and she is my inspiration, she really is, I still have to get up every single time and do it. Yeah. As much as she motivates me, if I don't want to do it, I ain't gonna do it. I'm 33 years old. Like I'm not going to do it if I don't want to do it. And like you see us bouncing off each other now. Like she'll like, I mean, you know how nurses work. It's now all of a sudden they're heroes with COVID, right? And that aggravated my brother when I was going on, be like, they've always been heroes, all right? So like, let's like
they get the recognition they deserve.
Yeah, the crap that they deal with, and I'm talking about like crap that they deal with, right? That they deal with. So she inspires me, and I inspire her, and we keep each other pushing. And but unless we have that within us, it doesn't matter. You're not going to stay fit. Yeah, I mean, we have people in the neighborhood, they're so awesome. They come around, we train out in the garage in the sun. You got to get that tan for the honeymoon, right? And they're like, oh, you guys inspire us. Like, what are you training for? And we're just like, life. Yeah. But it's mind-boggling that America's become that now. Like, oh, what are you training for?
You can just train to be healthy.
That's what it should be, though. No matter what, you should be training to be healthy. Like, you don't have to be doing an ultra marathon or a Spartan race or whatever. No, just like healthy. But it's always got to be like,
there's got to be something, right? Almost external validation.
Yeah, you got to find something, and like nobody can do it. So you can go to it. What I would tell people, if you don't know about the gym, and that's why people don't start, right? You go to the gym, you find a trainer, but don't be with that trainer all the time. You got to train with them 2 times a week. The rest of the time, it's got to be on you. I tell my boys all the time, I really don't like, unless it's like summertime, more than 2 times a week. And I technically lose money on that. No, it's because you have to want to do it on your own. Yeah. You have to go out and get on a wall and get on a curb and do it on your own.
Yeah. I mean, we have the same approach, right? We always want to have a transformation with any patient that we work with, where they become more self-sufficient, self-reliant, right? And they also have self-confidence. Without self-sufficiency or reliance, you're not going to have confidence.
No.
Or you have fake confidence, right? And to your point, there's no shortage of motivational quote or videos, especially with YouTube, right? Yeah. But there's a shortage when it comes to action. Yeah. Right? People, I always imagine like some bigger guy eating chips, watching David Goggins, talking about him running.
I was going to bring David Goggins up too. Everybody loves listening to David Goggins.
But no one's going
No, do you know the sacrifice? That's the biggest word. That's what my brother always talks about with me. I sacrificed everything. And I talk about my boys all the time. Coach, I want to go down this path. And some of my kids have it. I go, do you? Do you? I'm going to tell you don't. Because if you knew what it takes, like, dude, you can't. No, I didn't go to prom. I was with the Red Bulls. Yeah. I didn't touch alcohol. I didn't go to one party. I didn't go. Yeah. So like, I know you think you do, and this is where social media comes in, because everybody thinks it's so cool for that 30-second clip of that's the guy, this guy. No. Like the kid Zidane, the sacrifice that kid makes, he used to wake up at 5 a.m. He used to work out before school. Dad doesn't touch anything, doesn't do anything, like nothing. Like it's not easy. And people, it's not the physical. It's here. This is where it's draining. And if you can't deal with that, that's what frustrates me about kids. Like you don't understand that sacrifice and the strain that it has on your head. But I think like, my fiance, like she'll be like, she's like, you're my Superman. And like, it's kind of funny. She says that because everybody thinks that I just like do these sessions and I do like kind of nothing else. Again, they see what I talk about my brother, they see the 10% good, not the 90% crap. And not that this is crap, but like, getting up every single morning when my fiance gets home, cooking her breakfast, doing whatever she needs, like figuring that out, then going out to run errands. Then after running errands, I'm back and I'm working out for 2 hours because, I believe like 45 minutes to an hour, yes, but sometimes I'm doing functional work. drop sets where I'm really working on extensions and doing stuff. So it takes a little bit more time. I'm going straight from there to sessions, coming back, showering, and I'm decompressing just for like an hour or two.
Yeah.
Right. So she'll be like, but I always do it. But that comes from my upbringing. Mm-hmm. And my father being my inspiration, and that exactly what I told you that he did. Like, it's like you grow older, you go like, man, I could never do what my dad did. And then you find yourself like,
doing the same thing.
I'm doing the same exact thing my dad did. And be like, well, I hope I'm not fully because my dad is such a hard ass. But it's like, I'm hoping, and sometimes it can be annoying now as he's older. But I'm like, I'm hoping I'm not totally my dad. But man, I'm so happy that I am. Yeah. And I take care of my fiance the way my father takes care of my mother. Yeah. And that's why he's the best man like that. Like, I love my mom, but like, she's the best mother. Mm-hmm. But in terms of all that, she knows it. Like, my dad cooks, cleans. Like, he's by no means like soft. Yeah. It's just how he is, because if you do the dishes the wrong way, he's doing the dishes again. Mm-hmm. So he's the guy who like does them. And then later on, like the week will be like, well, you don't do the dishes. That's because if I do them, like you do them like we grew up with that. That's like the same thing with the vacuum, and like that's how we grew up. So, I 100% think it has to come from within, but they don't know the sacrifice. Like for example with Frankie, like it's 6-7 months. Mm-hmm. It's here. It has nothing to do with the physical. It's easy. It's like it's a play on your head.
Yeah. So. And so many things I can touch on. The one thing I took away from that is that, the myth of that everybody can have it all. Mm-hmm. You cannot have it all. You can only have a couple things, maybe 3 things. And then you have to keep constantly working those 3 things.
Yes.
Like, to have it all is to juggle more things.
And you're being average at all those things.
Exactly.
I tell that to players, right? Like, be great at 3 things. Stop trying to be average at 7. Like, the player needs to work on this. And I'm like, wait. No, you don't, because you're going to be average at them. You don't have enough time in the day. You don't have enough mental capacity or physical capacity to do it. And the same thing with like life, right? Is like, we have our financial guy. Mm-hmm. We have our investment guy. Mm-hmm. Everybody's like, oh, you can learn on YouTube. Yeah, great. I don't want to. I want to put all my energy into what I want to work on, and then let the experts take care of that. I'd rather pay them a little bit more money and let them do that, so I can be so honed in on what I do. Mm-hmm. So I totally agree with that, and I think you meant being a jack of all trades, but master of what they say. My dad would say it differently, but he had a little word in there. But you end up doing that. Yeah.
So, a couple things to wrap it up, man, because obviously you and I can talk all day about this. So, when a player looking to work with you guys at Tactekks, right? What are some of the things that you can tell them ahead of time? Like obviously they know about who you are, but what is your ultimate goal when you get to transform this, young men as a person throughout their whole athletic career?
Well, we have like a few sayings, and this is like the business side of me where I don't know like how to trademark them, or like, I think that's what happens with like wording, I believe, right? But on the back, it says simplicity through repetition. And that's our first thing that we started with. And it's do things simple and repeat and repeat and repeat until you don't need to think about them anymore. And then you go to the next stage, and then you go to the next stage. And I think there's a lot, and it comes from the cell phones, where it's like, I can look something up right now and I know exactly what it is. I mean, even like my fiance would talk about, like, doctors will do it, right? It's normal, right? But it's because you have it. Like, you'll look something up. Okay, like I remember this stuff. Like, you don't remember everything from when you went to school, right? So you know, like all the like the basic stuff like that, and you either bounce stuff off other doctors or you look it up. But that has killed kids, because they think now that I can search all this stuff that, oh, I'm just going to become a good soccer player within 3 months. Nope, it's not going to be that. So simplicity through repetition, repeating it until you don't have to do it. Constantly being on your toes and the balls of your feet. And when I mean constantly, I mean every single step. You're controlling your weight and your load, as you guys would say, and you are exploding into spaces. And then when you're off the ball, you can relax. But every single movement, from a drop step to every single step, when I call it active. So whether you're dropping off, whether you're making a run, it's on your toes. Because not only is that going to make you quicker and more effective into doing those things, it's going to less injury, right? Because I know like these things, less extension of the muscle. So you don't want it to elongate for that long, right? You want to push. And then in the soccer terms, like just being more explosive into space rather than too many small touches when you have space. And the thing that I came up with last year is I believe in like the 3 Bs. And it was always I grew so much as a coach in terms of like because as a player, like you can do it. But then as a coach, you need to be able to now break it down for people who don't have your brain and don't know maybe physically how to do it. So I broke down the 3 Bs: balance, body control, ball control, in that order. So if your balance is good, your body control is good. And what I mean by that is in soccer, like I think you're going over this with kind of like with Big Franco and stuff like that, like never letting the chest drop, never leaning too much left to right. Like everything should come from the hips and below. And the reason being is like you're controlling a ball with your feet. So like if I'm down here, I'm always going to want to come back up here. And if I can eliminate that coming up, I eliminate the delay and so I'm into spaces quicker. So teaching them that body control, and then ball control being last, because if balance and body control are your 2 focuses, your 2 initial focuses, ball control is easy because you're so in control of this. So when everybody like, I had to think about like, how can I do these things? Like everybody's just telling me like, how'd you do that? And I couldn't, no way I could break that down. But as you start getting into coaching, so that balance, body control, ball control, and getting kids to be obsessed with simplicity and repetition, constantly on their toes, and those 3 Bs is essential to me. And then, I don't know, like I think you went over this with Franco, I use the balance disc a lot. And I go through every bit, I go inside the foot volleys, laces volleys, thigh volleys, never letting the knee pronate, like all these things that like I know, but strengthens those ligaments, allows them to realize that if that heel sinks, you're falling off of it. So never allowing that heel to sink. So, we're putting stress on the soleus muscle, but we're putting stress on it, then stretching it because you want a balance of obviously both, right? Because if it's too tight, you could tear your Achilles, right? But if it's not strong enough, you could also tear your Achilles. So balancing that both. Then we go thigh volleys, chest volleys from there, and then finish with headers. So if people sometimes come to my sessions, like I'm not the guy that's always, and I believe in balance. Like my life is balanced and my coaching is balanced. I'm not always going to be like, but I'm not always going to be like this. So we'll do like, some people come to my session and be like, oh, that's not intense enough, when they'll see maybe the balance disc, or they'll be jumping over a hurdle, holding their body weight, volley, letting that foot drop, and then going around all the mechanics and biomechanics. And so they'll see my training. It's not like, oh, skill, ba, ba, ba. It's because the game is not that. And also, they're training so much anyway. You can't do that all the time. Yeah, too much volume. And I tell people this all the time, and you know this. You can train every day. Everybody's like, oh, you can't train. Yes, you can. It's just how you train, right? So I'll have a player, they do come do recovery sessions with me. People are like, people pay you for recovery sessions? Yeah, because you need to train.
And you're never going to compete at 100%.
No, you're never going to. And people wonder why these coaches, why all these players get injured. Well, you can train 4 or 5 days a week, but what are you doing?
Yeah.
They don't warm up properly, dynamic enough of warm up, which is a big thing. And I know you know this, and I've seen your videos, you go over it all the time, and I totally agree with it constantly. So we do the ladder. Can't explain to people, like there's soccer people like the ladder doesn't work. Like anytime that someone wants to do anything, wants to come play me one-on-one, I'm down for it. Doesn't matter who it is, because I'll show you that the ladder and footwork and speed works. Because as you know, in the ladder, not only is it footwork, speed, it's that bounce in your step, being on your toes, but also you have to control your body in the ladder. Because if you get too ahead of it, you're falling over your feet. So not allowing your chest to get in front of your feet, right? Extending your knees out, little things like that. And then we go from that to dynamic dribbling. We'll go from like always the same warm-up, regimented warm-up. He's talking about regimented. We'll go from the 18 and back touches, and then I'll set out 13 cones, so there's 12 spaces. So now it's opposed dribbling. So if you don't control your body and your balance, you're hitting these cones. So it's kind of getting a balance of both. Boom, then we go into training. A little active, little like, hamstrings, but everything's like little few knees up, boom, sit into like this, for the glutes, hold 3 seconds slow, boom, back up, because you don't want to do elongated stretching because the muscles go bang, bang.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people don't get that. It's like, why don't you stretch? Why do you stretch long for after? Because you want the muscle to elongate so lactic acid clears the muscle. But if your muscle goes like this, and then you're stretching for a long period of time and you do that, that's when you get these little strains and tears.
Yeah.
Right. So teaching kids like all this stuff, but you can train every day. I tell people that all the time, even like with working out, right? Like someday, maybe today, like I'll do band work. I'll just do band work and I won't lift heavier weights. I don't lift heavy like that anyway, but I won't lift heavier weights.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, just to wrap this up, I definitely want to say kudos to what you're doing for Franco and for the future athletes that you're coaching, because you obviously have the passion for the game, and working with you just make our job a lot easier because we're see eye to eye, and the transition is like seamless. So I appreciate that, and thank you so much for doing that. And
same from me to you guys too. And I don't know if Franco told you this, but you and I know somebody mutual, and I don't want to get into that stuff, but that I don't trust anymore. And I said, like, if you're gonna do this physical stuff, which I'm not the biggest believer, and I think in like players, especially as they're growing, lifting weights, how you lift, yes, but like no, like all like these heavy, like no, because especially with turf. Right? If you can't, I always think about lifting to maintain, right? Things you could do, because when you gain this muscle mass and you stop doing those weights, that muscle mass, not you lose it all, but deteriorates. So that load that you're holding isn't the same. So that's where like these little, especially for women, I think, with their hips and everything like that, there's like a lot of things that are too much. It should be more balance and body control rather than all this stuff. But I told Frankie, like with the work you guys have done with them, I go, I'm not going to say like don't go to him. I know you guys kind of have a relationship with this person, and I used to as well. But I loved your guys' approach on things, and I appreciate that trust, because I can trust you guys with him that this is not going to happen again. Because I think it was a little bit of, maybe it could have happened through growing, but I think it was a little bit of overworked and doing the wrong things all the time, trying to get to like a certain point, which affects me too, because in soccer it's always like Frankie was always like too small, and it sucks because that's such an American mentality, not a European one. And then you have these kids chasing it in the wrong way. And they have these following these guys who are all on like trend and doing all these things and like trying to inspire these kids. Like, yeah, you can't, that body's unachievable naturally. Like you can't, like you and I, like smooth, like you could be ripped, but you're smooth. Like, so they're following like these wrong things. You need to be following the right people who are doing things the right way. And I think you were going over Franco, like, the difference between the way soccer players lift versus like everybody else, it's massively different. So I have that same appreciation for like what you guys are doing, for him, because I think it was the biggest like mental loss for him, not being able to play soccer every day and do whatever he wants. But I see an even bigger drive in him now that I didn't see in him, and more of an intrinsic motivation to get back. And I think he's going to be stronger.
Oh, I can't wait.
I really think he's going to be stronger. And I said to Franco, this is actually a blessing in disguise for a few reasons. They're going to Italy. I think you know this. Yeah. They wouldn't have been able to do that. Yeah. And Amelia, their daughter, is going to college, so they wouldn't have been able to do that. And I said it happened at a time where everybody knows who Frankie is, but it really doesn't hurt his recruitment. So it was almost like a God saying, hey, slow down a little bit, man. Yeah. Slow down. He works in mysterious ways, doesn't he? Yeah. For everything. I'm a huge, I don't go to church, but I'm a huge believer in my faith, because I don't believe in my personal opinion, that I have to go there. I would just like church to be more exciting. It's very boring, especially the Roman Catholic Church. I would like it to be more praise and like get some folk music going, like I think God and Jesus would like you to like be more excited about praising the Lord. But I believe everything from me comes through the Lord. And I think like it was just God saying, hey, slow down a bit, enjoy. Franco talked about like Amelia the other day, like, oh, you're 18 already. Like slow down and enjoy it. And I think it's funny to say this, but I think it's been a beautiful thing that's happened for him. You kind of realize how precious things are. I was lucky enough to go injury-free my whole career. And I think it's because I didn't do like
anything.
I didn't, Natty. Like I really didn't. But I also think it's like biology, like Chris Bumstead talks about it all the time. Like all these kids want to be bodybuilders. Yeah. No, that's like hereditary. Like you can't just be a bodybuilder, And I think like everybody always comes to me like, oh, like I want to get faster. And I'm like, you can't get that much faster. It's natural. Like that's you can get your first step a little quicker. You can get your first step a little quicker. We teach them by the other toes. Teach them how to do like some right biomechanics, but you're not getting that much faster. So you're telling me everybody could be a 100-meter sprinter? No. Right? So you can only do like, people don't understand that. What's achievable with like your biology.
Yeah. No, it's, that is another topic that we can definitely touch on another day. Hey, where can people find you?
So we used to be on Instagram a lot, but obviously I got away from that. But yeah, I mean, they can still contact us through that. I do a lot of word of mouth, and I'm very lucky with that. But if they go to search Tactekks Soccer Training and they send us Tactekks_Soccer_Training. They can send us like a DM on that. You know, I'm thinking about getting back into it, but again, I want to get back into it in the right manner. I don't want it to be like some TikTok-y. That's why we got away from it. Became too much of that, and that's not what I got into it for. I got into it to get players better. Money is not my motivation. Quality is, and of course, business-wise, it could probably affect me, but I really don't care because I go to sleep every single night easy. Because I'm always Joey Spivack every single time. Like, I'll tell you the same thing. I'll tell him the same thing. I'll tell her the same thing. Because by the time you guys talk to each other, be like, oh, I don't want them to be like, oh, Joey told me this. Joey told me that. Nope. Everybody knows that there's no BS. Sometimes I tell too much of the truth, people would say. My fiance would probably tell me I could probably deliver things a little bit differently. But I am the most honest, real person you will ever meet. And that comes from my upbringing and stuff like that. And it's made my circle small, but a circle that I love.
I love it, man. Joey, thank you so much for your time, bro.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much. Thanks for fitting me in. I really appreciate it.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, absolutely.